So this is the 1930 hours GMT edition of the KhoodeelaarTV television channel, broadcasting under the banner of Baby Angel Geronimo. Baby Angel Geronimo editions, broadcasting the KhoodeelaarTV television channel as part A of the channel, broadcast today, 1930 hours GMT on Monday, the 24th of April 2023. Now, on Saturday, the Rupert Murdoch Times, the Rupert Murdoch owned Scum newspaper, not Times, Scum, had the Jeremy Clarkson column. And it's headed Smoke Cannabis and Block the M25. No one cares. Chop down a bush, jail. Now that is a fascistic line. What it says is that people should be allowed to cut down trees and plants. So that is a reactionary, fascistic headline. But the piece is about what he says. We have reached a point in this country, that is the UK or England, where the punishment rarely fits the crime. And half the time, we don't even know what the crime is or if it is a crime anymore. Now, this is interesting because he wrote that piece not later than Friday. And Diane Abbott was suspended only at the weekend Sunday, I think. So he would not have been able to applaud the political murderer Keir Starmer's kicking out Diane Abbott from the Labour Party's parliamentary bureaucracy, which is called withdrawing the whip. If a whip is taken away from a member of parliament, then it means that that member of parliament is no longer a member of the party on whose behalf the whip was active against them or on them. That itself, that linguistic arrangement, the terminology itself is reminiscent. Itself, the whip itself is reminiscent of the period in the English parliamentary so-called history and our story of members of parliament being physically whipped. And the fact that it is retained, the whipping, and it is retained as a positive action, shows that this country is festering in the dark ages. Going back to the question of what the crime is or what any crime is, this is a question that can be replicated and put to the political murderer of the Labour Party, Keir Starmer, and his co-henchmen and henchwomen, who have taken a clearly long intended, long plotted action against Diane Abbott. And the fact that the Times of Monday, on its front page, uses the terminology that Diane Abbott has lost the Labour Party whip. Actually shows that they are very much in the Middle Ages, Dark Ages. So I'm looking for the front page of the Times so that if it is possible, I can put that front page, although the putting will be precarious, on to the camera. The Saturday's Times led with Dominic Raab resigning, and Sunday was the Sunday Times, so it wasn't the resigning, it was the aftermath of Dominic Raab giving vent to his various sense of entitlements. I shall come to that Sunday Times shortly. And the Sunday Times has got Tim Shipman, the chief political commentator, that is how he's described, running the heading, "No Minister is the tweets that I have been posting all day today have actually gone back to 40 plus years, because the tweets I've been having to post necessitated a factual analysis of Diane Abbott, because Diane Abbott is described even by Keir Starmer, the political martyr of the Labour Party, as having been someone who has had the worst of racism, racist experience. And another one, I think a mulatto kind of writer, has also condemned Diane Abbott, but also accepted that she is somebody who has been at the receiving end of racism in this country. Well, this is the I newspaper of the weekend, that is Saturday, which covers the Saturday and the Sunday. And it says that Abbott loses Labour whip. And the Metro says Labour suspends Abbott in outcry at racism letter. Now, what she has done, she apparently wrote a letter in the Observer in which she apparently said that Jewish people and some other groups do not or have not experienced racism. What she meant was that that is the distinction. So she said there are many types of white people with points of difference, such as the Irish, the Jews, and the traveler community. Okay, the MP Shadow Home Secretary under Jeremy Corbyn wrote in a letter to the Observer that many types of white people with points of difference, such as the Irish, the Jews, and the traveler community, suffered prejudice. But comparing their situation to pre civil rights America in apartheid South Africa, she added, they are not all their lives subject to racism. Just before she was suspended by Labour pending an investigation, Miss Abbott wholly and unreservedly apologized for causing offense and blamed an early draft of her letter that was sent in error. Now, this is ridiculous. If she made a draft that obviously was not treated as a draft, it was treated as the final version, and the draft was treated as being her definitive position on the matter, then of course she was stupid. How could she do a draft like that? It would be daft to do a stupid draft. That immediately caused her to apologize, withdraw everything, and then still get the boot, get suspended by the political murderer of the Labour Party, Keir Starmer. This is the Metro version. The apologizing on Twitter, Miss Abbott disassociated herself from her remarks. She said the errors arose in an initial draft being sent, but there is no excuse, and I wish to apologize for any anguish caused. Continues, racism takes many forms, and it is completely undeniable that Jewish people have suffered its monstrous effects, as have Irish people, travelers, and many others. Now, I have had to do the tweets today about, I think, more than 20 so far, or about 30 tweets, because I have coexisted parallel to Diane Abbott. What I have done in the decades of this parallel existence is to take into account everything she has done publicly. I have no access to her private information or private part of her life. Everything I say about her or know about her is publicly accessed or directly accessed when I have had to face her and challenge her. For example, as one of the key founders of the Black Media Workers Association in the 1980s, the first year, the 1980s, I was involved in the various exchanges of communications in 1981 that took place after Ken Lying Still Livingstone and his colluders staged a coup at the GLC after the Labour Party defeated the Conservatives at the GLC Greater London Council at the May 1981 election for the GLC. And the GLC, of course, the coup was fronted by Ken Lying Still Livingstone. And the coup meisters agreed to make Ken Lying Still Livingstone the leader of the post-coup GLC. And as soon as he became confirmed as the post-coup GLC leader, Ken Lying Still Livingstone set about unleashing a kind of program addressing the aspect of the population in London, Greater London, that consisted of African people coming mainly through the Caribbean, the background that is just as Diane Abbott's mom had done, the Windrush people, etc., etc. And of course, the Asian people coming right from the subcontinent of India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. And I have written extensively, originally, chronicling the events and the impacts of Ken Lying Still Livingstone bribing the people of Caribbean background, African origin people, and also the people of Indian origin, Pakistan origin, Bangladesh origin people of the subcontinent. And I am the author, I am the unique, world exclusive writer of the history of the Ken Lying Still Livingstone. Nobody has written what I have written, nobody has witnessed what I have witnessed, and nobody knows what I have known in terms of opposing the corrupt, criminal regime fronted by Ken Lying Still Livingstone, the Greater London Council. That particular period was 1981 until Margaret Thatcher, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, successfully scrapped the GLC with effect from 1986. So I was there at the GLC headquarters called the County Hall in the area called Waterloo in London, London SE1. I was there almost on a daily basis on weekdays for good 5 years in terms of the GLC. And I was there for a bit longer after the GLC was abolished, but the Inner London Education Authority was allowed to continue for a few more years. And I, being a member of the Inner London Education Authority's committees, schools committee, etc., I was still going to County Hall. But the essential point in this context is about the GLC. I'm the only person in the whole world population that has confronted Ken Lying Still Livingstone, politically confronted him, openly confronted him, extensively confronted him, consistently confronted him as many times as I have done. So by my memory, I haven't got the list in front of me. From, let's say, May 1981 until the GLC was abolished, I confronted Ken Lying Still Livingstone in the County Hall publicly, every time publicly, on several hundred occasions. I would say 250 to 300 plus occasions. And almost all the confrontations were followed by Ken Lyons to Livingstone suspending every event that I was confronting him at. Most of these events were meetings that he was holding for the attention of his bribed members of the communities across Greater London. And he was going to give them pep talks and tell them how to praise him. It was those factual points, his claim that they needed to be told how to praise him, and the fact that he deserved to be praised at all, that was morally unacceptable universally and was anathema to my entire life's purpose, which is to oppose liars and challenge the lies and liars. It was something that I would have done against anybody else in the same position. I did not choose Ken Lyons to Livingstone as the target. But Ken Lyons to Livingstone left no alternative to me but to warrant my opposition and challenge and questioning of his presumptions. So I'm the only one on the face of the earth who has done this to Ken Lyons to Livingstone, and he would never be the same again. The only other person who actually got in the news for a very different, lower key engagement with Ken Lyons to Livingstone was a Jewish man called Oliver Feingold. The Jewish man, Oliver Feingold, was daft enough to ask Ken Lyons to Livingstone how had a meeting Livingstone was leaving had gone. An innocent question and a perfectly legitimate, justifiable question from a journalist in the patch. That is to say, the journalist Oliver Feingold was on assignment to cover the activities of Ken Lyons to Livingstone, and at that time the mayor of London. So this happened sometime between 2004 and 2008, I think, but we can check the date later and update the actual date. So Oliver Feingold said to Ken Livingstone, how did the meeting go? As if Ken Lyons to Livingstone had been primed to explode at the first sound of Oliver Feingold. He exploded. And he said the most absolutely pathetic, really anti-Jewish things, really anti-Semitic things that even I would accept were actually committed. Now, Feingold, being a Jewish person, had committed no crime in asking the question that he did ask the Ken Lyons to Livingstone. And he was absolutely humiliated. He was insulted and he was humiliated. Let's check if that exchange is available in transcript, because it would be very interesting to see the transcript if it is there. Oliver, how do I remember this complex name? It is not a Muslim name, not a name from my culture. So how do I remember this so exactly? Oliver Feingold. I mean, it's absolutely essential name. Oliver Feingold, and I'm not looking at any script or anything. So this is the Guardian. So the Guardian on the 25th of February 2006. So I was right to say that it was between 2004 and 2008. So this happened in February 2006. So this is the transcript run under local government on the Guardian. This is a transcript of the taped exchange between Ken Livingstone and Oliver Feingold outside City Hall last year. So it's the year before, that is 2005. Oliver Feingold, Mr. Livingstone, Evening Standard, how did it? Ken Livingstone, oh, how awful for you. Now, this fucking cunt didn't even let Oliver Feingold say, how did it go? Then he tried again, Feingold, how did tonight go? Livingstone, have you thought of having treatment? Says the fucking cunt Ken Livingstone. Feingold, how did tonight go? Livingstone, have you thought of having treatment? Feingold, was it a good party? What does it mean for you? Livingstone, what did you do before? Were you a German war criminal? Feingold, no, I'm Jewish. I wasn't a German war criminal. Livingstone, ah, right. Feingold, I'm actually quite offended by that. So how did tonight go? Livingstone, well, you might be, but actually you are just like a concentration camp guard. You are just doing it because you are paid to, aren't you? Feingold, great. I have you on record for that. So how did tonight go? Livingstone, it's nothing to do with you because your paper is a load of scumbags. Now, it's not as scumbags as he makes out, but let's skip that one for the time being. Feingold, how did tonight go? Livingstone, it's reactionary bigots. Feingold, I'm a journalist. I'm doing my job, Livingstone. And who supports fascism? Now, after this man said he is a Jewish, how does the criminal cunt Livingstone manage to link him with fascism? Feingold, I'm only asking for a simple comment. I'm only asking for a comment, Livingstone. Well, work for a paper that isn't. Feingold, I'm only asking for a comment, Livingstone, that had a record of supporting fascism. Feingold, you have accused me. After the words you have accused me, there is a gap on the tape, followed after 5 seconds by a sound indistinguishable other than its being a male voice. So that's the well, let's go back to the version that the Daily Mail ran on the transcript, Mayor and the reporter. London Mayor Ken Livingstone's problems began in February last year as he left a reception at City Hall. Evening Standard reporter Oliver Feingold approached Mr. Livingstone to ask how the party had gone. This is how the conversation continued. Oliver Feingold, Mr. Livingstone, Evening Standard. How did it? Ken Livingstone, oh, how awful for you. Oliver Feingold, how did tonight go? Livingstone, have you thought of having treatment? Feingold, how did tonight go? Livingstone, have you thought of having treatment? Fine, good. Was it a good party? What does it mean for you? Fine, good. Livingston, what did you do before? Were you a German war criminal? Fine, good. No, I'm Jewish. I wasn't a German war criminal. Livingston, right. Fine, good. I'm actually quite offended by that. So, how did tonight go? Well, you might be, but actually, you are just like a concentration camp guard. You are just doing it because you are paid to, aren't you? Fine, good. Great. I have you on record for that. So, how did tonight go? Livingston, it's nothing to do with you because your paper is a load of scumbags. Fine, good. How did tonight go? Livingston, it's reactionary bigots. Fine, good. I'm a journalist. I'm doing my job. Livingston, and who supported fascism? Fine, good. I'm only asking for a simple question, comment. I'm only asking for a comment. Livingston, well, work for a paper that isn't. Fine, good. I'm only asking for a comment. Livingston, that had a record of supporting fascism. You have accused me. After the words you have accused me, there is a gap on the tape, followed after 5 seconds by a sound indistinguishable other than it being a male voice. Refusal to apologize. Mr. Livingston refused to apologize despite pressure from the Jewish community, Holocaust survivors, and other politicians. The panel at the disciplinary hearing was told that Mr. Livingston had been expressing his long and honestly held political view of associated newspapers, the publisher of the Daily Mail and the Evening Standard. He accused them of anti-Semitism and the Standard of harassing the largely gay private reception held at City Hall, but paid for with public money. But for 4 years between 1996 and 2000, Mr. Livingston worked as the restaurant critic of the paper's glossy ES magazine, a task for which he was paid several £100 a column plus expenses. Several £100 per column plus expenses. In the storm which followed his comments, Mr. Livingston said he had been rude to reporters for nearly 25 years and that he would continue to do so. He claimed he had not meant to downplay the horrors of the Holocaust, but had hit back after a 24-year hate campaign by the media. Stubborn refusal, aggravated position. Commenting on the ruling, Evening Standard editor Veronica Wardley said, the Evening Standard has always believed that Mr. Livingston should apologize for his remarks. There is no question that he caused offense to many Londoners by his comments. And his stubborn refusal to say sorry aggravated the position. Mr. Livingston not only offended Londoners, London's Jewish community, but then he did not show the stature expected of the mayor of London by apologizing. As the Standards Board found, our reporter questioned Mr. Livingston in a civil tone. Oliver Feingold behaved impeccably and was polite at all times as he questioned Mr. Livingston when he left a civic party. As the tape recording shows, Oliver Feingold did not swear at the mayor or was in any way hostile. The complaint to the Standards Board was brought by the Board of Deputies of British Jews, not the Evening Standard. This paper has not always seen eye to eye with Mr. Livingston, but we have applauded his work in helping to unite London after 7/7. We believe, though, that he is only right, that it is only right that the adjudication panel has now decided that Mr. Livingstone acted in a manner that was ill-fitting for the mayor of this great city. Mr. Livingstone should now apologize to those he offended. Well, he didn't apologize, and but I have now read the main transcript. So going back to the question of the attack by the media on, let's say, Monday, that is today, 24th of April 2023, attack on Diane Abbott based on her remark. Now this is I think the tweet that Diane Abbott posted on what time of the this is shown at 10:41 a.m. That is 09:41 GMT on 23rd of April, which is Sunday. And the views number 1.7 million views. And it says, my statement. This is the statement that Diane Abbott was forced to publish on her Twitter. And the Twitter account is at Haque Abbott. I'm writing regarding my letter that was recently published in the Observer. I wish to wholly and unreservedly withdraw my remarks and disassociate myself from them. The errors arose in an initial draft being sent, but there is no excuse, and I wish to apologize for any anguish caused. Racism takes many forms, and it is a completely undeniable. I'll read that paragraph again. Racism takes many forms, and it is completely undeniable that Jewish people have suffered its monstrous effects, as have Irish people, the travelers, and many others. Once again, I would like to apologize publicly for the remarks and any distress caused as a result of them. So the Times heading, Corbyn ally in Labour row, it continues on this page because I can't retrieve the page from page 1. So this is page 7. Continuing on page 7. 4 years after quitting over Corbyn's handling of anti-Semitism, said the affair certainly does set the Labour Party back. It is being quoted over. They're quoting a female member. She told Times Radio it highlighted the need for Keir Starmer to do even more to overcome this issue. Other senior Labour figures to condemn Abbott's letter included Jonathan Ashworth, the Shadow Work and Pension Secretary, who called the comments deeply offensive, deeply wrong. Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, told GB News, I just don't understand how you can diminish what happened to Jewish people. Arguably, anti-Semitism is the oldest form of hatred. This commenter, this is something that Sadiq Khan has to be very careful about, because arguably anti-Semitism is the oldest form of hatred What exactly is he referring to? Because in the culture of this Islamic faith, there is clear factual references to the children of Israel. And if there is a connection between children of Israel and the state of Israel today, then anti-Semitism, as the oldest form of hatred, becomes open to discussion, debate. Sadiq Khan cannot be expected to support something that is against the faith, the Islamic faith. I mean, support the interpretation. Anyway, continuing the Times item, the Board of Deputies of British Jews said Abbott's letter was disgraceful and her apology is entirely unconvincing. We have written to Keir Starmer expressing our deep concern. Greg Hands, the Conservative chairman, said it showed Labour haven't changed since being found institutionally racist. Now, there is this editorial in the Times today, that is Monday, 24th of April 2023, which has had a few statements, could be more crass. Leading article, page 23. So let's check that one, page 23 of the Times leading article. So let's check that one. So this is the one that is being referred to on page 7 of the editorial, which says the heading is crass prejudice, the two word, and the subheading underneath those two words is Diane Abbott has sabotaged Labour's efforts to close the door on anti-Semitism. That is the kind of, is it possible to show before the camera? Very difficult to show before the camera, but that is crass prejudice, you can see in the middle. And I shall read that whole thing and then comment on the whole thing. Diane Abbott has sabotaged Labour's efforts to close the door on anti-Semitism. Few statements could be more crass, myopic, or inflammatory than Diane Abbott's contention that Jews suffer no more prejudice than redheads and cannot be seen as the victims of racism in the way that black people historically have been. As the Labour MP for Hackney North and Stoke Newington not heard of Auschwitz, does she imagine Jews were sent there as victims only of the occasional taunts that redheads suffer? She swiftly realized that her letter to the Observer was as absurd as it was politically suicidal. Almost as swiftly, the Labour Party came to the same conclusion and suspended her membership. Miss Abbott quickly tried to disassociate herself from her remarks. She issued an apology for any anguish caused and said it was undeniable that Jewish people had suffered the monstrous effects of racism, just as the Irish travelers and many others had. It is too late. Her foot in the mouth letter, and there are few mouths that have been so often encumbered, betrays an instinctive anti Semitism that no member or no number of apologies can remedy. In one short paragraph, she undid much of the strenuous efforts Sir Keir Starmer has made to extirpate anti Semitism within the Labour Party and disassociate the party from the poisonous attitude espoused by Jeremy Corbyn, under whom Miss Abbott, a policy ally, served as Shadow Home Secretary. Well, she didn't not only serve under him as Shadow Home Secretary, she actually slept under him, according to reports published immediately after Corbyn became leader of the Labour Party, which reports can be accessed independently. Mr. Corbyn has now been disqualified from standing as a Labour candidate in the next election. Keir has repeatedly tried to rebuild trust not only with Jewish members of the party but with all those who were appalled that Labour could ever have embraced attitudes purportedly simply condemning Zionist political ideology that are so openly anti Semitic. Clearly, some party members still harbor their original prejudices. The speed with which the party reacted to Miss Abbott's letter and the categorical denunciation of the mindset it betrayed underlines the distance Labour still has to go to distance itself publicly from the Corbyn era. There will have to be an internal inquiry within the party on Miss Abbott's remarks. Her apology may not save her. In some ways, her letter could be the excuse Sir Keir was seeking to reduce her influence as a champion of the party's left, if not to expel her altogether. She has friends in the party and is a popular figure to many. Her banter with Michael Portillo on late night television was always engaging. She has been excused any number of gaffes and blunders, including her total confusion in a 2017 radio interview over the cost of Labour's pledge to recruit more police. But to many, she is now seen as a liability if Labour is to broaden its electoral appeal. After accepting the verdict by the Equalities and Human Rights Commission that Labour had been guilty of unlawful acts of harassment and discriminated against Jews, Sir Keir accepted the change of rules it proposed to tackle anti Semitism. In 2021, Keir Starmer declared that the party had closed the door on this issue. Clearly, however, the door is still ajar, and the Conservatives will now gleefully attempt to force it wide open to embarrass the party leadership. Miss Abbott, whose commitment to London is lifelong and sincere, could now help her party to overcome the uproar she has caused by resigning her own membership. That would help to diffuse the internal row and encourage others on the left to put this disgrace behind them. Now, this is the editorial of the Times newspaper on page 23 of Monday, the 14th of April, 24th of April 2023. There is because of the pages missing, I'm only reading from the parts, the pages that are still accessible. So there is a whole lot of references to all kinds of events and activities that exposed Diane Abbott correctly, according to these writers, to the charge of being stupid and anti Semitic. Now, the tweets that I have posted about Diane Abbott, and going back to the 1980s, as I said, I mean, as a founder of the Black Media Workers Association, I was present at a meeting held in the ground floor or probably the basement. I mean, I can't remember the architecture as clearly now as I could have done a few years ago. The county hall was the main building of the GLC, and we had a meeting in a room that was situated at the northeastern extreme of the building, county hall. And present at the meeting were the main members, convening members of the Black Media Workers Association that I had played the leading part in convening. And Diane Abbott was present. She was asked to attend the meeting to explain her contacts with the GLC leadership on behalf of the BMWA, Black Media Workers Association. She wasn't authorized, she was not entitled to do that, but she did communicate and claim that she was representing the Black Media Workers Association. And we demanded her to tell us all the facts. She obviously didn't tell all the facts. But during the interrogation that we conducted of Diane Abbott, it became very clear that she was hostile to the organization's main purpose and that she was acting as an agent for Ken Livingstone's GLC. And we put two and two together and we concluded that the GLC wanted the Black Media Workers Association to become a stooge outfit to promote Ken Livingstone's image and his career. And it was clear that we did not want to do that. I led the debate, and I think I persuaded the majority of the people that we had nothing to do with the GLC, even if that meant that the GLC would not give the funding that it had promised. for us to advance the cause of opposing racism in the media at every level. So, as a result of that, we decided that the Black Media Workers Association was no longer going to work as an extension of the Ken Lying Still Livingstone fronted GLC. Now, that was 1981, 1982, let's say. So, it's 41 years ago that I led the campaign against the GLC and against the role played by Diane Abbott as an agent of the GLC. So when I tweeted today about Diane Abbott, I tweeted with rare, unique knowledge about Diane Abbott's character and her reliability and her integrity. Diane Abbott could not have made a mistake, as she claimed in the later apology, so called, in doing a draft that was sent wrongly to the observer. How could she make a mistake about something like the Holocaust, something like the Nazis' behavior towards all the victims, Jews, travelers, and other people? How could she do that? So Diane Abbott was absolutely intellectually, morally, and ethically not fit for purpose. After that, she got a job with the ITB London. And prior to that, I think immediately after leaving college, she had a job with the Home Office as a junior clerk, I think. And after the ITB London job, she got a job with the Ken Livingstone's GLC as a GLC press officer. I attended the county hall every day, and as part of my regular checking the facts, I would go to the press office and asked if there was a new press release issued on that day. And sometimes Diane Abbott would come to the counter, and sometimes she would hand me something. Most of the time, she would not have anything to say. So I had these contacts with her, not something that I had planned, but she would appear in response to my queries at the press office desk. I also asked Diane Abbott questions where she was presented as one of the panelists announcing some GLC event or GLC program. And I found Diane Abbott unable to answer or unwilling to answer the questions that I put. Overall, Diane Abbott is not somebody that has got the information or the materials or the knowledge, and she lacks attention to detail. She lacks the due respect to the people asking questions. She doesn't work as a journalist or like a journalist, and she doesn't work most certainly as a campaigner against injustice. Many of her remarks over the years, including the comment about blue-eyed blonde nurses. I mean, why would she insult white women who were blue-eyed blondes? What kind of crime did they commit? Being born blue-eyed was not something that should be treated as an offense that they might have committed. But that is what she said, and that showed a remarkable lack of solidarity, empathy, and compassion. It was crude, cruel, offensive, and downright jealous. And of course, she sent her child to private school. Being member of the constituency like Hackney North and Stoke Newington, she sending her child to private school doesn't represent the people of Hackney North and Stoke Newington, does it? It doesn't represent most of the black people, African or Asian backgrounds. And then her son's godfather is Michael Portillo. She couldn't find a black person to become her son's godfather. What kind of choice is that for a woman who claims to be opposed to racism? So Diane Abbott has been an early mental slave. And the fact that the Labour Party racists put her on the list and removed Arnie Roberts, who was the MP for Hackney North and Stoke Newington, is a trade union MP. Arnie Roberts was replaced by Diane Abbott being imposed on his position. Sure, there was a corruption. There was corruption involved in Diane Abbott being foisted as a candidate in the winnable seat of Stoke North. No, Hackney North and Stoke Newington. Sure, she has benefited from corruption, the Labour Party corruption. There are so many things, like, of course, the candid interview she gave before she became an MP to the magazine called She, S-H-E, where she told them that the best half hour of her life had been having sex on a spot in the Cotswold in the English countryside. I'm paraphrasing, of course. And she told the She magazine at the same time that her becoming a political kind of activist meant that her life had become more structured, which meant that she couldn't do the kind of wild things that she did at the Cotswolds. Nobody has identified whether the man she was there with was Jeremy Corbyn or somebody else. Jeremy Corbyn's wife, who left him under pressure from Diane Abbott, who physically, mentally harassed and intimidated and threatened her. When Diane Abbott took over Jeremy Corbyn as her lover, Corbyn was, of course, a married man, and she found that Corbyn's wife was still visiting him. Diane Abbott then confronted Corbyn's wife and told her to get lost. There are so many other similar examples of Diane Abbott's behavior. This particular episode was run as a part of the biography shortly after Jeremy Corbyn became confirmed as the Labour Party's leader. Diane Abbott has not replied, has not denied the affair, nor has Corbyn. Nor has either of them denied any of the details that Corbyn's ex-wife recalled, including the fact that Corbyn had left Diane Abbott in his bed on her own while he went canvassing or campaigning with other people, all of them white people. And suddenly he remembered to go back to the flat for something. And he took the friends with him. And they found Diane Abbott in bed under the bed sheet, not wearing her clothes. And they could see that clearly. So it's not somebody who has got the biography described in an impeccable, dignified manner. Years before that happened, she was dating a black man who was a cricketer, well-known cricketer. And it became known to her that that cricketer was seeing another woman at the same time as he was supposedly was in a relationship with Diane Abbott. So Diane Abbott paid a surprise visit to the flat of that man and either physically assaulted the woman or harassed her out of there. So Diane Abbott is known on her records as a violent individual, very cruel, very selfish, lacking in compassion, and disrespectful of people. Therefore, her apology for her bogus apology for the letter she sent to the Observer is completely open to questions. To what extent is it believable? We shall be continuing with these issues about Diane Abbott and the impact on the black community and the impact on the fight against racism in this country, and the role played by mental slaves like Traitor Phillips. To what extent is Diane Abbott different from Traitor Phillips? We shall be discussing in the later editions. This is 20:38 GMT on Monday, the 24th of April 2023. It's a local time. British local time is Monday, 21:38 British local time or British Standard Time.